Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 40 of the Old Men Magic podcast. The big 4-0, Alex. We've almost reached our age in episodes. Today is Sunday, May 14th, 2023. Thank you for joining us for Casual Cardboard Conversation. If you'd like to support us, please give us a like, please subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Today, we're going to discuss not only a popular card, but a popular deck archetype that hit the scene during the IPA block. And we will get one step closer to completing our first ever Commander decks. Alex, we got no follow-ups to the last episode, so we're just going to get right into the main topic today. The main topic today is Fires of Yavimaya. Alex, what is Fires of Yavimaya, you might ask? Well, it is one of the 99 in the Commander deck that I'm building, but it is also this card. So Fires of Yavimaya was an uncommon that was printed in Invasion. It is one colorless, one red, one green enchantment. Creatures you control have haste, and you can sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya to give a target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. I love this card because I like aggro decks. I like creature decks. I also like cheap cards. This card's only $1.51.
I don't know, of anything else really that I'm sure there probably is something, but nothing leaps to mind of enchantments you can put down that just give all of your stuff haste, which is nice. At least back in the day, I feel like we didn't have too many options that way.
Whatchamacallit? What's the legend card? It's just a 1-drop. It's 1 green. Concordant Crossroads.
Okay.
But other than Concordant Crossroads, Fires of Yavimaya, Concordant Crossroads, you also can't buff your creatures with it. Plus, Concordant Crossroads gives everything haste. That's the big difference.
Yeah.
Fires of Yavimaya, just your creatures haste.
And not much more mana either.
Not much more. Yes. 2 more mana.
Yeah.
So this card is the centerpiece of an aggro deck that has a lot of ramp, undercosted green creatures, and red removal. So I've been reading about these Fires decks that hit the scene in the year 2000. In the year 2000, when I think Invasion was printed, maybe 99, somewhere around there. And what makes those decks really great is the combination of this card with also overpowered creatures that had the fading mechanic. So if you remember fading, the creatures that come into play with some number of fading counters. Each turn you remove a fading counter from that creature, and when you take your last fading counter off of that creature, it's removed from the game. Sort of.
Yeah, I saw what you wrote about that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that. It's a very smart way to you have this mechanic, and you have a way now to squeeze some extra efficiency out of the number of turns you get with that creature who is fading.
Yes. So these fading creatures, they tend to be overpowered for their cost, but they come with that downside that they're only around for a few turns. If you play one of them when they have haste, you get that whole extra turn out of them.
Yeah.
And like I said, because they tend to be overpowered, that's an extra turn with a 4/4 or a 5/5 or a 6/6. That can be enough to end the game quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a very smart idea. It's pretty cool.
What would be the ideal turn for a Fires deck? The ideal turn would be a land, a manimal, like a Land War Elf, or a Bird of Paradise. And then turn 2, you play another land, and you got your Fires out. Turn 3, you play a forecasting cost creature. So that's the dream for the Fires players. What are these big creatures? What are these big creatures with fading that people play in their Fires?
By the way, I'm also glad that this is an uncommon. It makes it accessible, and if it were rare, it would be annoyingly expensive, probably.
I'm going to start by going through the creatures of Fire of Yavimaya. What are the big fading creatures that people want to play with this card?
Excited.
First one I'll talk about is Blastoderm, Alex. Blastoderm. Everybody
Old
knows.
Blasty's back.
Everybody knows Blastoderm probably because it was featured in episode 2 of the Old Men Magic podcast. It's even in our thumbnail. That was back in the day when we were first looking through a lot of these pre-modern legal sets. And I was like, look at all these badass creatures for under $1. Well, Blastoderm is still under $1. It is a common from Nemesis. It has had no major reprints. It was just really reprinted in like World Championships, dual decks, promo cards.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It is 2 colorless, 2 green to play. It is a summon beast. It is 5/5 with fading 3. And Blastoderm can't be the target of spells or abilities. I think I explained fading a little bit incorrectly earlier, so I'll just read the fading on this card. This creature comes into play with 3 fade counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a fade counter from it. If you can't, sacrifice it. So I think earlier I said it disappears when you remove the last fade counter on it. That's not the case.
Right.
After you remove the last fade counter on it, it can still stick around for that next turn as a blocker. But then when it comes back to you during your next upkeep, you remove it. Maybe that aspect of fading was a little bit confusing to some players. I'm not really sure. But it seems like it might have been because they stopped printing fading as a mechanic. All tournament legal cards with fading were printed in Nemesis, which probably explains why they haven't reprinted Blastoderm.
Oh, okay.
What they've done instead is they've replaced fading with something called vanishing. So I saw on MTG Wiki that the ability vanishing was first printed in the time spiral block. It's nearly identical to fading, but it triggers as soon as the last counter is removed rather than waiting to the next turn. So what I initially described, that's actually how vanishing works. Fading works a little bit differently. You remove the counter, and then your next upkeep one, you can't remove any counters because you've already removed the final counter. That's when you remove it from the game.
Yeah.
What they've done, I guess, at least in the case of Blastoderm, I don't know if they've done something similar with other creatures that have fading, but with Blastoderm, since they didn't want to reprint these creatures with fading, they printed something that was essentially the same. There's a card called Calciderm. And after I wrote this down, I started having like this vague memory. We may have already talked about this and potentially forgotten about it. But okay, it could also be something that I just read about and I never brought up to you yet. So they essentially took Blastoderm, they replaced fading with vanishing, and they color shifted it. So now there's a Calciderm, which is 2 colorless, 2 white, creature beast, 5/5. Calciderm can't be the target of spells or abilities. It has vanishing 4 instead of fading. This permanent comes into play with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from it. When the last is removed, sacrifice it. And I think Blastoderm had fading 3.
Yeah, and then it would last for another turn after it. So they both last for 4 turns, basically.
Yeah, vanishing 4 is equivalent to fading 3.
Yeah. And I think this, the way Blastoderm is worded is just more reminiscent of like having it be an upkeep cost. You know what I mean? Because if you have like an upkeep cost that you have to pay or your creature is destroyed, you would pay it, and then like the next turn you couldn't pay it and your creature would be destroyed. So I think they were just like thinking along those lines, but when it's not an actual cost that you have to pay, I guess they just decided it makes it easier to have it just happen right then, and then you just increase the number from 3 to 4.
Yeah, but you're right. It does act just like essentially functions like an upkeep cost.
Yeah.
So the dream of a Fires player is to attack with this guy on turn 3. Who doesn't want to attack with a 5/5 on turn 3? That would be awesome. Land, Manimal, land, Fires, land, Blastoderm with haste.
Yeah.
So Blastoderm is one of the big fading cards. One of the other big fading cards, creatures specifically, although kind of not a creature, but also a creature, is Sapperling Burst. I don't know if you've seen
Oh, yeah.
Sapperling Burst.
No, I saw it when I read what you posted, but
Just in the notes.
this is new to me. Yeah, it looks pretty fun.
Sapperling Burst is awesome in this deck and awesome with any kind of haste enabler. It is a rare from Nemesis. Like Blastoderm, there have been no major reprints, just World Championship decks from around the time this was first printed. It is 4 colorless, 1 green, and it is an enchantment. So it has Fading 7. You remove a fade counter from Sapperling Burst to put a green Sapperling token into play. The token has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of fade counters on Sapperling Burst. When Sapperling Burst leaves play, destroy all tokens put into play with Sapperling Burst that can't be regenerated.
Okay, so when you cast this, and then you decide to if you make all your Sapperling tokens immediately, you can make 1/6/6 Sapperling, right? Or 2/5/5s.
2/5/5s.
Okay. 3/4/4s.
3/4/4s.
Okay.
I think I would go 3/4/4s, right?
Huh?
I think I would go 3/4/4s. That's 12 damage as opposed to 10 damage or 6 damage. If you wanted to maximize the damage, do you go 3/4/4s? You're then leaving it.
Depends on their blocker situation, I guess,
Depends on their blockers. Depends on what kind of removal they're running. If they're running some cards that can damage something for 4, but not for 5, you don't want to risk the 4. But yeah, I mean, you can play this with mana acceleration, with mana ramp. Let's say you play this on turn 4 in a Fires deck. And if you have Fires out, you swing the turn you play it for 10 or 12. I think I go for 2/5/5s or 3/4/4s almost all the time.
Yeah. It's an interesting card. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of ways you could, tinker with it. And
I want to play it. I need to get some reps in with it and see if I just want to make 2/5/5s all the time or do something else with it. But it would, like you said, it would depend on their blocker situation. It would depend on how much damage you needed to get done. Let's say you just needed to do a few points of damage and they had a few blockers. Then you just make a whole bunch of 1/1s and swing with it. That's all you need. Considering putting this in the pump, I don't know. We shall see. So this Sapperling Burst has a rating of 4.343 on Gatherer, a current market price of 153. I think I forgot to say what Blastoderm is rated on Gatherer, 4.287. A lot of the creatures, maybe all the creatures I'm going to talk about, are all rated 4 over 4 on Gatherer. I don't know if people pay attention to Gatherer, but what I did when I started looking into all these sets that we didn't play with back in the day, from Mercadian Masks on, the stuff that I wasn't familiar with, I like to go to Gatherer and just sort by 4.0 or above. And that's a good way to narrow in on the powerful cards, the cards that a lot of people like and play in these sets. Seems like all the creatures in the Fires deck are well loved. But Sapperling Burst next. I mean, I think this is the big baddie in the Fires of Yavimaya deck. It seems like to me, this is the one that could do the most damage. The next creature that I see appear in a lot of Fires of Yavimaya decks is Flametongue Kavu. Have you ever played with a Flametongue Kavu, Alex?
No.
Neither have I. But I think I will soon. It is an uncommon from Plane Shift. This one has had many reprints, including recently in Dominaria Remastered.
Okay.
It is 3 colorless, 1 red. Summon Kavu. 4/2. When Flametongue Kavu comes into play, it deals 4 damage to target creature. So this is a great creature removal in the form of a creature itself.
Yeah.
This blows Sarah Angels out of the sky, which nobody cares about any longer, but we care about that. Sangiers blows them out.
Definitely.
Sarah's blows them out. What else? Those are the 2/4/4 flyers that we worried about.
I mean, it's a lot. You're getting 4 damage and 4 creature power out of that 4 mana. It's pretty good.
It blows birds out of the sky.
I like that it's a 4/2. That's like an unusual power toughness, combo. It makes him kind of like a glass cannon offensive creature kind of guy. Yeah, I like it. Only downside to him is that I think it says in the rulings that if there are no other creatures out, he has to deal 4 damage to himself.
Yeah, so that is a problem. So this was it. Yeah, I saw this in the rulings. Flametongue Kavu's ability can target itself. If it's the only creature on the battlefield as its ability triggers, its ability must target itself. So if you have no creatures on the battlefield, if your opponent have no creatures on the battlefield, you don't want to play your Flametongue Kavu because you'll just be wasting 4 mana. You'd just be suiciding, man. But
yeah, but also it's a good point. Like you wouldn't really play it as the only creature anyways, because you wouldn't get to deal the 4 damage to something else. So
yeah,
it'd be kind of a waste.
You just hold it.
Yeah,
you just hold it to nail something off the board as soon as your opponent plays it. The other thing I like about it is in the context of this deck, like the Saproling Burst. This is another reason why you want to make your Saproling bigger, I guess. Maybe if you want to play a Kavu next turn or something, you want to have 5/5s out on the board instead of 4/4s. Because your Saproling Burst, your Saproling tokens, if they're 5/5, they can survive a Kavu hit on the board. Your Blastoderm's a 5/5. It can survive a Kavu hit on the board. Although a Blastoderm also says it can't be targeted.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just thought about that, of spells or abilities. So, yeah, you don't want to play this guy either when you just have a Blastoderm on the board then.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it would just target itself.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one downside that I didn't think of. But the other thing is, maybe he'll eat a bird or an elf or something if your opponent is not playing with creatures. But yeah. I don't know. You're into the game. You're 4 turns into the game, maybe 5 turns into the game. Maybe you don't mind sacrificing your bird or your elf at that point to get a 4-power creature on the board.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like them, and also in metas like pre-modern, especially, there's lots of creature-heavy decks. So most of the time, I feel like you're going to get to do some damage with Flametongue Kavu.
Yeah, even if they're not playing a creature-heavy deck, a lot of people are still going to have some kind of like small utility kind of creatures that are there to do something, and like manimals or whatever, and you can pick one of those off, even if it won't be a big deal.
Yeah,
like your opponents.
So I like this guy.
I do too. I'd play with that.
4.346 on Gatherer, current market price of 29 cents. Another thing you might be noticing a trend, Alex. Another thing I like about this deck: all these cards are cheap.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a cheap deck to put together. Next creature that I like in a Fires of Yavimaya deck, and that appears in some but not all of the Fires of Yavimaya decks.
This is my favorite part. I'm excited about this.
Alex is a Shivan fan. He's a Shivan fanboy, has been since day one. Since 93, you've been rocking the Shivans. 94, actually, you've been rocking the Shivans. Shivan Worm. Shivan or Shivan? Which one is it, Alex? Nobody knows.
I think everyone says Shivan at this. We said Shivan Dragon when we first started playing, but we could barely even read, and it was the only time we had seen that word.
We were advanced.
It doesn't really make sense, anyways. So
we were advanced 12 and 13-year-olds. It is a rare from Plane Shift. It has no reprints, man. 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 green, summon worm, 7/7 trampler. When Shivan Worm comes into play, return a red or green creature you control to its owner's hand. So, obviously, I mean, this is just a cool card on its own, I think. Cool card in a lot of decks, any kind of deck where you want to bring something back to your hand, any kind of creature that hasn't entered the battlefield effect. I think it's especially great in a deck that has a bunch of creatures with fading. Like Blastoderm. Yeah. Although, damn it, I'm thinking this again. As I'm saying, you can't do it with Blastoderm, and also you You can't do it with Sapperling Burst again because that is an enchantment that you play.
Right.
So listen to me. I'm discovering in real time as we're recording the podcast that all the cool things I thought I could do with this card, I'm not going to do, except maybe play this to bring a Flametone Kavu back to my hand and then replay the Flametone Kavu and then blast another one.
And I mean, I don't know how rigid you are with the creatures, like for this deck, but if you're talking about some things you don't have on our list here that we're talking about today, it would certainly work.
I can think about something else right now. I just can't. Well, I can sort of think about it. There's a card that I can't remember the name of, but is it a red card, creature card? You play it and you stone rain your opponent. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe Avalanche Riders, something. It's a red creature.
Okay. Avalanche Riders sounds really good. Sounds like a good guess for what that would be called. Avalanche Riders.
And I think I have seen this. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Avalanche Riders. 3 colorless, 1 red.
Before, I think.
2/2. Yeah, we have. Echo. Unaffected by summoning sickness. Doesn't matter if you have a Fires of Yavimaya out, but when Avalanche Riders comes into play, destroy target land. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
You bring this guy back here, you have to play the Echo again. That's kind of a pain in the ass, but
anyways, I love this card. I actually never saw this before. When I saw it in the notes, I was like, I got really excited. I thought this is sweet. It's exactly what I would want for like a red-green, herd ape, lightning bolty kind of quick red-green deck. That prior to this was maybe missing like a real big creature. Maybe it had some, but they were like multiple green casting costs or something like that. I love the casting cost of this guy. He's only 5. It's only 1 red, only 1 green. This is the casting cost of Senastian Falconer, I believe. Shout out to terrible Senastian Falconer, who's a 4/4 Soul Ring from
how do I spell
Legends.
Senastian?
Just like it sounds, I think.
Okay.
SUNAST.
Oh, okay.
IAN. Yeah, there he is. I bought this guy, and I was excited about him at first. I was like, oh, it's 4/4 and he's a Soul Ring. And then I'm like, I can only use one of those 2 things at a time. If you did have to tap him, he'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, but same casting cost as him. I'm not sure why that's relevant, but
it's important to bring up on the Old Man Magic podcast, Alex. Yeah. Anytime we can reference an old legendary creature, we're going to
look how much better this is than that, for that amount of mana.
I did actually. What were we saying? 7/7.
Nothing trample? Really. I was just going to gush over how he's 7/7 trample, hard to kill, does a lot of damage.
I'm looking back on the show notes now, and I did actually think about whether or not this guy would work with Sapperling Burst. I had a question. Don't think it does work with Sapperling Burst.
Oh, I saw that. No, I think you're right. Actually,
I think it does because Sapperling Burst is an enchantment, and yes, it puts tokens into play.
Okay, so. Yeah,
but you can't replay the token. I guess this could bounce your token back to you.
I
can't even go back to your hand.
The way I read this, you could use that, like so since that's a cost of summoning Shivan Worm, like you have to do this in order to summon it, right?
It doesn't say.
I didn't think about that. Sorry, what?
It doesn't say may, so I'm assuming that yes, you have to have something.
You have to, but. So, like, if you don't have another red and green creature, though, you could still cast this, couldn't you?
I actually don't know.
That's what I'm wondering. Because when I first read this, I was thinking, you needed to be able to return a red or green creature in order to cast this.
Well, I think you do.
Huh?
I think you do. The way I'm reading it, I think you need to.
If that's the case, then you could use one of your Sapperling tokens to pay that cost. You would bounce it to your hand and it would just get destroyed.
You're right. So it would still be good, but not in the context I was originally thinking. I was like, oh, great. You could use Shivan Worm to bounce back some of your creatures that have fading and then replay those creatures with fading. Well, you can't do that with Blastoderm because you can't bounce Blastoderm back because it can't be targeted. You can't do that with Sapling Burst either, because Sapling Burst is an enchantment. And to create the tokens, you need to replay the enchantment, or you need to play the enchantment.
Oh,
But
Steve.
in cases where let's say you do need to bounce something back with the Shivan Worm, you could wait until your Sapling tokens from Sapling Burst are about to fade out of existence. And then you could just bounce one back when you play the Shivan Worm. You don't care that you bounced it back because it was going to fade anyways. But now you're going to say something important,
Yeah,
Alex.
but wait, there's more. Shivan Worm has a ruling. You choose the creature to return on resolution of the triggered ability. This is not targeted.
Oh, so I could do it with Blastoderm. Bring it all back around. So Shivan Worm, like I said from the beginning, is great to use in combination with your Blastoderm.
In fact, in the comments of Shivan Worm, someone says, what's his drawback? Reset your Blastoderm, Flametongue Kavu, Thornscape Battle Mage.
Hell yeah, baby.
Hell yeah, baby.
But, let's pretend like none of that is going to happen. This is what you were getting at when you were gushing over Shivan Worm. It's just a great card for its cost. 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 green for a 7/7 trampler.
Yeah.
In a deck where you're going to have Manimals.
Yeah, you're going to have something low casting cost down that you're not going to care about having to bounce, really. I would really it seems like when people are talking about this here that they do think you need to bounce something. I still want to know what happens if you don't have any red or green creatures down at all, if you're allowed to cast Shivan Worm. Because if you're not, I would want the card to say it more specifically, like return a red or green creature you control to its owner's hand or bury Shivan Worm.
Yeah.
It might just be that you only have to do it if you have one.
You need
better. Huh?
You need old school wording on Magic cards where it adds an extra 2 or 3 sentences that now everybody just really assumes. My assumption is that you need, because like I said, if I don't see it say may, if it does not say you may return a red or green creature you control to your hand, my assumption is then it's necessary.
Necessary if they're out. If they're out. If it said may and those creatures were out, then you wouldn't even have to do it.
Yeah.
So there's 3 possibilities.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Someone else says return Wall of Blossoms to your hand. That's a good one.
Oh, that's great. It could reset the counter on your Wall of Roots, too. Wall of Roots, taking counters off of it to get mana, bounce it back, replay it.
I could
back up to an 05. I mean, Alex, it might be making an appearance in the pump at some point in the near future.
We're gonna have a lot of overlap in our decks.
we don't have that much. We have a ton of cards that don't know. How much of our decks overlap?
No, I know. But there are some more cards that I want to add that you have, and I might go in one day in between episodes and do some not so exciting mundane tweaking to my deck.
No, it happens all on. It's all recording. Right. You just wait to see what I add today, Alex. Today I'm adding basic lands on the pod.
Someone else mentions with Shivan Worm, Thornscape Familiar, which I love. I like these familiars, and I've been wanting to build some decks with them in them to reduce the casting cost of my other spells.
Mm-hmm.
So now your Shivan Worm is only red, green 2 to cast. This guy says turn 1 Forest, Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Mountain, Thornscape Familiar, turn 3 any land, and Shivan Worm, return Llanowar Elves to your hand. That's a really easy turn 3.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great card, man.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I'll definitely play it. It's like a Timmy card, but it's not it's still reasonably priced and efficient.
4.321 on Gatherer. 4.321. I love that.
Good rating.
Current market price of $2.11 continues the streak of badass and also cheap and affordable creatures that are often played in Fires of Yavimaya deck. Anything else to say about Shivan Worm today, Alex?
I don't think so. I think we talked about him.
It's just good. We did our talking.
He's coming out of a portal.
Is that what
Probably
that
not
is?
really important.
What is this? Is this like a wizard that's casting a spell and then he's coming
he's
out
like
of that?
summoning the Shivan worm and it's
Yeah.
coming out of that portal thing in front of him. That's the way I
Interesting.
because like maybe with plane shift, I feel like there's maybe a lot of other cards where like that sort of thing's going on. Someone's getting like
He's shifting
sucked in.
planes.
Cool.
Alex, we're going to
Yes.
go from the creatures to a non-creature creature now.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen this card before.
I think
I heard we might have talked about it already.
We might have. We talked about elephants once or twice in passing.
Yeah.
And I like elephants.
Alex one day dreams of having an elephant graveyard. Maybe 4 to make an elephant deck, an old school elephant deck.
Sweet.
I call this a non-creature creature because it's a sorcery.
Yeah.
It is a rare from Odyssey, recently reprinted in my favorite recent set, Dominaria Remastered. 2 colorless, 1 green, sorcery. You put a 3/3 green elephant token into play. It has a flashback cost of 3 colorless, 1 green. So it could give you a 3/3 on turn 2 and a second 3/3 on turn 3.
Mhm.
I'm assuming a Manimal there at some point. Rating of 4.060 on Gatherer. Current market price of $1.96. Again, cheap. I heard this was a huge card in its day when it came out first. Like when Odyssey hit the scene,
Really?
people were like freaking out at Call of the Herd. And this was like a $20 card, like at a PAX.
Wow.
So, now you can get it. You could have got it for 50 cents. Now you can get it for like $1.50, $2.
Yeah. Still nice. I mean, it's a rare. This isn't a card this is a card I wouldn't mind picking up a few of while it's cheap in case it ever goes up again or something. I don't know if it would, but I like that. I mean, even just a 3/3 for 1 green, 2 colorless is not bad. And then it has the
Not bad
flashback
at
on
all.
top of it.
Yeah. And what I like about cards with flashback is like it's not just that you can get 2 plays out of it. It's like sometimes if you don't end the game as quickly as you want and you're just like I said earlier off camera, when you're playing these aggro decks, you just empty your hand too fast and then you're on the draw and you just pull a land and then you got like nothing to do for a turn. Well, if you empty your hand, you put all your creatures out, you played all your spells, you're on the draw, you pull a land, you don't have anything to do that turn. Well, guess what you do? You can replay a spell from your graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Being a sorcery, also, you could fork this.
That's true.
Elephant Stampede.
Yes. What else can you do? Is there any way? I was going to be like, and then you can fork your fork, but no, fork's always restricted.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I wonder if they've ever printed anything that was like fork.
They have. I've seen 1 or 2 things like that like double a spell. I think there's a blue one.
Okay.
Something like that. I can't remember.
Try to storm out your Call of the Herd, even though it doesn't have storm, but try to like. Anyways. So that was my non-creature creature that I might be playing in Fires of Yavimaya deck. And non-creature spell that I saw in some Fires of Yavimaya deck. So what I did here, just introducing Fires of Yavimaya, what Fires of Yavimaya was. And now I'm going through some of the cards that I see appear in a lot of Fires of Yavimaya decks. So, a lot of them are different. These creatures I've discussed so far, they show up in a lot of decks. When going through all these Fires of Yavimaya deck lists recently, I found this card. This is a non-creature card, but it's not something that I see in a lot of these decks, but I thought it was really good. It looked like a really cool inclusion, not only in this deck, but really a lot of creature decks. Maybe, any green-red deck that's mostly creature-based. Maybe even a goblin deck you could put this in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This card
That's
is
how I sort of thought of it at first.
Reckless Abandon.
Yeah, did we talk about this on the podcast before? Because
I don't know. We might have, and I forgot
but I might have just have seen it and been meaning to bring it up too. I don't know. But I think this card is definitely worth it. For 1 red mana, you sacrifice a creature and it deals 4 damage to any target.
I think we did talk about it. I don't remember if it was on the show or not. This happens to me often. I won't remember things when we talk about it once. So I've probably presented multiple. We're 40 episodes into this. I'm assuming like every other episode, I'm talking about something as if I'm talking about it for the first time.
I don't
But
think we've done it too
usually,
much. We've usually caught it, I think. I think we've talked about this before.
usually I will remember the second time, and almost all the time, the third time I will
Okay.
remember. But yeah, this is one red sorcery as an additional cost to reckless abandon, sacrifice a creature. Does 4 damage to target creature or player. It's almost a goblin grenade.
Yeah. Also would be good in a like a black-red graveyard kind of deck.
Any deck where you wanted to get things in creatures in your graveyard. Well, you have to play them first.
Right, yeah. It wouldn't be a way to cheat a creature, but
Yeah.
you could, you know.
But you could still get something big back if you cheated something out.
Yeah. Like some graveyard decks, like you want to stock up your graveyard for certain effects. Like if something like whatever, like Nether Shadow, where like it requires you to have a lot of like creatures on top of it to bring it back into play.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like threshold cards where you want to have your graveyard stocked up with a lot of creatures so the thresholds work.
You can squee this guy. Squee just comes back to your hand.
Yeah,
Just
there
do
you go.
4 damage. Replay squee.
It's a good idea.
My first thought when I saw this in a Fires build was, oh, this is like Shivan Worm, great for fading creatures, and also great with Blastoderm, because this isn't. I could be wrong about this rule. Does this? It doesn't seem like it targets Blastoderm. Sacrificing. Seems like you can sacrifice things with Shroud. Do you think you can sacrifice? I think you can too.
You don't have to target it to sacrifice it, I don't think.
Yeah. And let's forget about Blastoderm. Let's say you can't do it, even though I'm almost positive that you can. You still have your Sapperling tokens that you made with Sapperling.
Limtung Kavu.
You still have, all sorts of things.
Whatever else you're playing. Yeah.
4.214 on Gatherer. Current market price of 23 cents. Continues the trend of cheap cards in Fires of Yavimaya build. I just went through TC Decks. tcdecks.net, typed Fires of Yavimaya, looked at a bunch of different Fires of Yavimaya deck lists. Most of them don't do all that well in the tournaments. So, I don't know. At some point, Fires was pretty good in a limited environment in tournaments. I think it tends to be underpowered in comparison to a lot of the other really competitive decks, at least in the current pre-modern meta.
Okay.
But I think overall it looks like a really fun deck to play, and it's a really affordable deck to put together. But this one with Reckless Abandon, like it had rated much higher in the tournament. Like it ranked much higher in the tournament where this person played this particular version.
Did the other ones have not as much direct damage? Was that like the big difference?
Yeah, a lot of them don't have direct damage at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So this episode, I'm just introducing Fires, introducing common creatures that are played in Fires. This is going to be an ongoing 27-part series where we discuss Fires of Yavimaya for several months, half a year, whatever 27 episodes is. But no, from here, this is just an introduction. Next week, I want to go into a famous Fires of Yavimaya deck called My Fires, put together by Zvi Mauschowitz for the Pro Tour 2000 in Chicago.
Okay.
We're going to review his deck, talk about some of the cards that he placed in his deck, and discuss his rationale for including those cards. And then I'm going to do a third episode where I put together Steve's Fires, not Zvi's Fires, but Steve's Fires, my Fires of Yavimaya deck. I think this card will be in my Fires of Yavimaya deck. And my Fires deck, I think it will have more direct damage than a lot of the other ones that I see. But,
Hey, I mean, I think you're playing red-green. Like, one of the things about red is that you have, like, options to turn your tempo up or down, or to, like, alter how you do removal or how you do damage. You know what I mean? You can pump up the direct damage or get rid of it completely, go more creature. Like, so why not tinker with it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If the traditional version of the deck doesn't do as well in, certain metas, like why, maybe play around with it and try putting some more heat in it or some, whatever.
That's going to be my preference. We'll see how it goes. I am surprised to not see 4 lightning bolts in every single one. I understand Zvi's did not have 4 lightning bolts because I believe it was after 4th edition. And as we discussed last week, lightning bolt wasn't printed in 5th edition, 6th edition, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think he had access to lightning bolt. Okay. But I'd be interested to know if he would have included lightning bolt, even if he did have access to it. I don't know. But that's the end of the introduction to Fires of Yavimaya, Alex. I think what I want to talk about now is I just want to take a brief moment to talk about some recent purchases that I made in the world of Magic the Gathering. I was going through some of my boxes the other day, and I was thinking about some of the decks we've talked about on and off the podcast, some of the decks I wanted to build. And I wanted to pick up just like some cheap cards, or in one case, not so cheap, but it's a staple. I need it. Some of these cards that I need to build some of these decks that I wanted to put together. And at the same time, I also came across like some cheap pre-modern staples. And I was like, 50 cents. Let me try to pick some of those up. Why not? Don't know what I'm going to use them for right now, but I might use them in the not too distant future for something. And one of the cards that I picked up was Astral Slide. Alex, ask me why I bought this card.
Why did you buy this card, Steve?
I don't know.
Oh.
I put this in my cart in the middle of the night and I forgot about it. I'm not really sure why I bought it. I think I came across it and I just thought it looked cool, but I don't really have anything in particular I want to do with it. Astral Slide, 2 colorless, 1 white enchantment, uncommon from Onslaught. Whenever a player cycles a card, you may remove target creature from the game. If you do, return that creature to play under its owner's control at end of turn. I know why I bought this card now. We had a comment in response to one of our episodes, somebody talking about how plane cycling and swamp cycling was a really cool mechanic too. And I was like, I looked into that a little bit. I was like, yeah, you're right. That is pretty cool. And then I started thinking about cycling cards. I'm like, maybe one day I'll make a cycling deck. What would you include in a cycling deck? This seems cool to include in a cycling deck. I don't know. I bought them for like 25 cents a piece.
Okay. So yeah, it just lets you kind of like phase out people's creatures when you cycle things.
Yeah. So it's a very specific use. About 4. Like I said, about 20. Well, they're like 25 cents a piece. I'm like, what the hell? What I want to say about them in particular is, when I placed these purchases like a week and a half ago, mostly for cheap stuff, like I said, I ordered all light play or non-mint. It was a bad week. It was a bad week for arrivals, Alex. You can't tell really from looking at these because they don't really have like a ton of wear around the edges or anything. Don't know if you'd even be able to tell from this, but it essentially looks like somebody at some point took this playset of Astral Slides and like played a few hundred games of Magic the Gathering on gravel. Like if you take these cards and like hold them up to light, some of them are actually bent along the edges and they're all just like scuffed up and scratched up. It's not dirt. You can't clean it. They've just been scuffed to hell.
Just the regular slide, not even Astral Slide, the gravel slide.
So people got no respect, Alex, when you order 25-cent cards from them.
Yeah.
No respect.
Astral Slide also sounds like a brand name for lube.
We don't talk like that, Alex, on this show. This is a kid show. Other purchase I made, Alex, we just talked about this called Call of the Herd. Because yes, I will be putting together a Fires of Yavimaya deck. I figured why not pick up a couple Call of the Herds. I think they were about $1 that I picked them up for. One of them is clearly bent. You can't see it really, but it has a clear divot like all the way down the middle of this card. Like somebody went like this to it. I'm doing it now, but it's already damaged. This one, light play my ass. Can you see this, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole edge. So this is not even focused. How do I get this focused? How do these TikTokers and YouTubers do this? I see them do this with their hand behind sometimes, but I don't have a fancy web camera that's refocusing. But all along the edge of this card, Alex, all white. Everywhere
see
you
it,
go,
yeah.
it's white. And it's so worn to the point, when it gets really worn around the edges, it starts to get like a little fluffs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not light play, Alex. No respect. These people have no respect. When you order a near mint or a light play card for like $1 or less, they just figure I think they really think to themselves, I'm just going to throw whatever I have in this envelope, and they're not going to bother to send it back because it's not worth the money. Other card I picked up, Alex. I got a few pernicious deeds.
Okay.
You might remember from our discussion of the Rock. This is a staple in the Rock deck. This is a staple removal card in that deck. Pernicious Deed. This is the expensive one that I bought. $8.78 here. I can't remember what I picked them up for on TCG Player. They're probably like $6 or something. One colorless, one black, one green. A rare from Apocalypse. Enchantment. X mana, sacrifice Pernicious Deed. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. So, probably the staple removal card in the Rock. And in the Rock, you have Recurring Nightmare. You can bring a lot of stuff back. You don't necessarily care about blowing things off the board on your end necessarily if you can bring them back.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Alex, let's see if we can show this. Can I show this on cam, Alex?
Uh-oh.
This Pernicious Deed came damaged in my mind.
Oh my gosh.
Can you see it?
No. Your screen's you're in the tiny little.
It is all bent. So this whole part, there's a big bend in the card from here all the way to there.
Stop sharing your screen so it's big.
Damaged, Alex. No respect these people have. They have no respect when you order a light play or a near mint card. It's not okay. 2 of them came fine, but the third one is damaged in my mind. It was a bad week for arrivals from TCG Player, Alex. Oh, you know what I'm especially disappointed in here? I have traditionally had good luck with condition and TCG Player when you order through TCG Direct because, TCG, I think they have their warehouse. And if you order direct, they gather all of the cards and TCG Player sends it out in a TCG Player envelope and stuff. And when that happens, they get their hands on the cards. They look at the cards. And typically under those conditions, I've actually received cards in the condition that they were supposed to be in. Most of my bad experiences with condition have been from a direct seller, one that doesn't go through TCG Player. Just small sellers.
Kind of the opposite experience.
Okay.
But it's also only been when I do TCG Direct, I've always had good luck with like newer cards. Like if I bought a whole bunch of cheap commons, they would all be in pretty like near mint shape, I would expect.
Okay.
I've had worse luck when it comes to really old cards on TCG Player. Like when I ordered like commons from like Antiquities or Beta or something.
I agree with you there. And I haven't been doing a lot of that. Most of the stuff I've been ordering direct from TCG Player have been like pre-modern cards. So
yeah, and those usually come pretty good.
So not new, but yeah, not Four Horsemen. People seem to throw typical condition guidelines completely out the window for Four Horsemen for some reason.
That pisses me off.
They're like, okay, all of a sudden, if a card was printed in Legends or Antiquities, like a light play means heavy play. No, it just means there were fewer light play cards from Antiquities in existence. You don't get to change the grading.
Those cards are cool and expensive.
Anyways,
I'm sorry for your experience.
A couple other cards, Alex. Also for the Rock, probably. I ordered some more black removal. Diabolic Edict. From Tempest. Cheap card. I think it's a common.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
I have some of these.
Yeah.
Just one color box.
One black, instant, target player sacrifices a creature. These came all right. This person did an okay job. And then I picked up a playset of Vendettas. The one I was most disappointed in the Pernicious Deed because that was the most expensive, Alec, but then also the Call of the Herd because it was just there's no way you could look at that card and think like this is light play. You're just messing with me. And the person also they stuffed like 5 or 6 freebie cards into the sleeve. And I'm like, did they do that because they saw that they just sold me a Call of the Herd that's like really in terrible condition? And they're like, if I give this person 5 or 6 free cards that he doesn't even want, maybe he'll be okay with this. I don't know. The freebie cards are all new board or modern stuff. I don't play with it. But I also ordered Vendetta, Mercadian Mass. 1 black, instant. Destroy target non-black creature. Can't be generated. You lose life equal to that creature's toughness. Good way to get rid of somebody's elves or birds turn 1, turn 2.
Okay, yeah. Play the Vendettas early and then play the Diabolic Edict maybe like after when they don't have little creatures left.
Yeah, I like that this is 1 black and it's an instant too. Alex, these came beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
These cards were like 25 cents or less, I think. And I ordered light play. I mean, these in my mind are like near mint. This person did his job. This person is a great seller on TCG Player. Is mostly mint on TCG Player. That was the name. I guess when I see a name like that, you know that person is somebody who takes conditions seriously.
I've seen that name. I don't know if I might have ordered something from them before. Maybe I just saw it.
I just had a whole week of like lousy condition commons showing up in my mailbox. This was like a breath of fresh air when I opened this. I just assumed it was going to be like trash. I was like, this is how everything's going this week. These vendettas are going to look like they've been through the washing machine 3 times. No. I think they're actually mostly mint.
Nice.
He also sent some freebies with it. Shimmering Wings, enchanted creature gains flying. Play 1 blue to return Shimmering Wings to owner's hand.
I remember I've seen that.
Upside down, it's a Tempest common, I think. Anyways, those are my purchases, recent purchases.
Very nice. Sorry
Sorry for my loss.
Yeah.
Just picking up some stuff like some removal that I want to put into the rock whenever I finally build the rock. The thing about the rock is the recurring nightmares and it's easy to put together the rock except for the recurring nightmares and the deranged hermits.
Yep.
Deranged hermits, they're still not cheap at all, but they've come down massively. They're like $30 or $40 now, which is a lot of money. But they were over 100 at some point. Crazy. For some strange reason, that should have never happened. And then I don't know what recurring nightmares are at now. Maybe 30, 40 also.
Sounds right.
41 market price. I bet if I went to TCG Player, I could get them for like 30 something. Anywho. Alex, I think it's time for our last segment of the day.
All right.
The Old Men Magic Commander Corner. So this is the part of the episode where Alex and I continue to build our first ever Commander decks. We never played Commander back in the day. Now we're doing it, but we're doing it the old man way. We're making our decks with just old frame cards. It's not because we hate modern Magic. It's not because we hate kids these days. It's because this is mostly what we have. And I'm starting mostly with what I have. And also, I want to build some other decks too. And the decks I want to build are all pre-modern. I don't want to be buying old border cards and new border cards at the same time. Learning about all the old frame sets that we missed after we quit in the late 90s and also trying to keep up with modern Magic. We're just trying to keep this manageable. So we're starting with the old border cards. My deck is called the Pump. My commander is Jacques Levert. This is usually the part of the episode where I do like a 20-minute recap of the Pump and talk about all the cards that I've added to the Pump so far and talk about how there are 3 main themes to the Pump. One theme is I pump my creatures. Another theme is I trample with those pumped creatures. And a third theme is I generate a lot of tokens that I can then pump and trample. I'm not going to go through all that today because I'm tired. I'm just going to get
feeling merciful. Mercy on us.
I'm just going to get straight to it, Alex. I'm just going to get straight to adding my cards today. I'm going to add a lot of cards, but some of them are just going to be basic lands.
No.
I'm going to start with the non-basic lands. Today, Alex, I'm adding Maze of Ith to the pump. One of the things that I'm worried about is flying creatures, because the pump is just a green creature horde. There's not a lot of flyers in green. So I want to be able to deal with flying creatures. Maze of Ith is one way that I'm going to do that. Alex, when I was browsing Twitter today, I came across a tweet from Tori of the Vast, who's one of the Scry Babies. They have a very popular YouTube channel. I follow her on Twitter, and I saw her tweet today that Maze of Ith, something along the lines of like Maze of Ith is slowly, like Maze of Ith might be becoming one of her auto includes, or her auto include in every commander deck she puts together. She mentioned Soul Ring. She's like, basically Maze of Ith is becoming a Soul Ring for me. And I like to see the kids these days giving respect to Maze of Ith. I'm putting it in my commander deck. I think you put it in your commander deck already.
I mean, she hit the nail on the head. Like when we were playing, Maze of Ith was an auto include. It was just like, for the cost of 0, for just playing a land, I can neutralize any creature.
Neutralize anything. I also like the fact that in a aggressive combat-oriented deck like mine, if I swing with some creatures and then, my opponent does some trickery, maybe they giant growth berserk something to take out a creature that I really don't want to lose, I can remove it from combat with the Maze of Ith.
It's much less used, that way, but it's still another option that you have at your fingertips. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that guy's just wiggling through the.
I don't know what this is. This is an intestine.
That's how I always interpret it. That's what it looks like. It looks like he's been eaten and is being digested.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's called a maze, I feel like whatever is digesting him is some sort of like very vast, kind of immobile sort of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and maybe he doesn't get digested because it doesn't kill the creature. It just takes them a long way to wade through those intestines and plop out all slimy on the other side.
Yeah.
I always forget there's a guy
there. Really?
Yeah.
He's so noticeable to me.
He's right there, right?
Mm-hmm. No, what?
Where's the guy?
The whole big center, the biggest part.
I thought this was a head and this was the bottom.
Oh.
Where's the guy?
I never even noticed that. That might be a guy that you point to. No, if you go down farther, that's his leg, and
Here?
That's his knee.
His
that's
leg,
his
knee. That's his feet.
Yeah, and keep going up. That's his knee. That's his butt. Now, if you go to the left and up, you can see his vertebrae as bumps.
Okay, so it doesn't.
That's his head above it.
If this is a human, it looks like he's been digested.
And you can even see his arms too at the top, they're
Okay.
That blows my mind that you don't notice that guy there. That's all I see when I look at that is that dude right there.
I thought maybe this was a guy.
Now I've never noticed that before, but I agree with you now. I'm like, that could be a guy too. He could be also in there wandering around.
Yeah, it seems like maybe this thing does digest people.
We'll never know.
Anyways, Maze of Ith has been added to the deck. And then I'm adding some lands to get rid of some of my opponent's lands. What would I add to do that, Alex? Of course, I would add Strip Mine. Because you gotta. And then I'm going to add Wasteland. To get rid of my opponent's Maze of Ith. I got a Tempest Wasteland. And I have an Antiquities Strip Mine. Not to brag.
You have an Antiquities Strip Mine? Did we talk about that before?
Did we talk about me having an Antiquity Strip Mine?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
No, I don't know.
It's just from back in the day.
And I forgot.
I have the cheapest of the strip mines, whichever one it is. I don't have the one that for some reason goes for a premium and they call what do they call it? Like the tower or something.
Yeah.
You have to You have to get out like your magnifying glass to even figure out what the hell they're talking about. They're like, this commands a 3x premium because there's this little tiny thing that somebody drew in there. It's because it's more rare. This. I don't have that one. Not worth the premium in my mind. I don't even think it's nice looking. I like the ones with the blue sky. I think I just have this one. I believe I have the cheapest one. Now, Alex, here come my big additions for the day. I'm going to add basic lands. You might ask why I'm doing this. One, because you need basic lands to play Magic the Gathering, Alex. What kind of silly question is that? Two, it's because I just want to get it out of the way because the deck is starting to get bigger. I'm starting to, it's starting to fill out. And I'm kind of unsure of like how many spots I really have left to add creatures and other spells. I just want to add my lands now. So I have an idea of how much space I actually still have left.
Yep, makes sense.
I'm going to add 4 mountains today, Alex. 2, 3, 4. This is incredible content. Nobody's ever done this before. Spent 20 minutes adding lands to their deck. Live, but not live, recorded. The forest, Alex. Which forest will I add?
Aurora Borealis forest there. That's crazy.
Which one am I?
That one that came up automatically.
Oh, that's right. Was it the Doctor Who one? Oh, this one I'm looking. This one I'm looking over here. Don't know what set that's from. I think these Lord of the Rings lands might be pretty cool. I like the idea behind them.
That's neat. Yeah, I like the idea of having like a Lord of the Rings map on a card.
I think I'll pick any up, but I like that. I like that one. What do I got? I got a bunch of Tempest Force, Alex. Since this is a mostly green deck, all my creatures are green. I'm going to add 12 forests, Alex. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Finds a way.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My fingers are hurting. That was tough. And then I'm going to add 5 planes. I will add the Mirage planes. I will add the one that is white and reddish in the background.
Okay.
Because I have white and red in this deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I approve of that color scheme choice.
It brings me to 37 lands. Plus a Soul Ring and a Felwar Stone. So that's 39 mana sources. Plus, how many mana producing animals? 1, 2, 3, 4. 43 overall mana sources if I count the manimals. We'll see how that works out on a commander deck. I feel like at some point in the past I Googled how many lands you usually have a commander deck. I feel like around 40 mana sources was typical. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up again for advice before I start putting more lands in.
37 lands, 43 total mana sources, if I count my manimals and my mana rocks. That is the current status of the pump.
All right.
How many cards do I have in the pump already? Here's a hand of 7, 70 in my library. So 77 plus my commander, 78. I got 22 spots left.
Okay.
I think it's mostly going to be creatures. I got 22 creatures to add. Shivan Worm is probably going to be one of them. Okay. Now, Alex, we're going on to Alex's deck. Alex's deck is now named Group Mud. He named his deck 2 episodes ago. It was one of our highest rated episodes of all time. Probably because Alex named his deck. His commander is Corona False God. Alex does not like doing drawn out, extended discussions of what his deck will be, what the themes of the deck are. His are usually a minute or two long. Mine can get up to 15 minutes long. What do you add to your deck today, Alex? I got really tired all of a sudden.
I'm tired. Well, okay. I have a few. I don't know if I should go all in one category or if I should spread it around, but I have a few cards. I need a Wheel of Fortune in there.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think you added it already, but I didn't.
I did.
For a group hug-ish deck. I like that I can, make everyone draw some cards.
I just added the wrong card. What came up was Wheel of Misfortune.
Yeah.
What is this? 2 colorless, 1 red sorcery. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. What are we talking? What are we doing here? Remove that.
Get rid of that.
Put in the Wheel of Fortune. Alex does not have an alpha Wheel of Fortune.
No.
He has a revised Wheel of Fortune. Which, when I came back to Magic, which is when you also came back to Magic, Alex, in 2021 now, maybe? This is one of the cards that really surprised me, price-wise. Didn't realize it would be so darn expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
We really missed the boat on the revised cards that were put on the reserve list, like Wheel of Fortune and dual lands. It didn't occur to me, even when I was selling my dual lands in like 2006, 2007, that like these things were never going to be reprinted. And you know what? I thought about this recently the other day. Why didn't I take that seriously? One, I wasn't thinking about money ever. I just needed to sell my cards because I had a little bit of credit card debt. And I was like, I'm not going to use these. Didn't think about like holding on to things for decades and price appreciation and all that stuff. But then I also thought, and this was about, like we had discussions recently, maybe about Demonic Tutor too. There were definitely things that were put on the reserve list back in the day when it first started and we were playing. They were then taken off the reserve list. Right?
Yeah. I think it was all pretty much like things that were not rares, uncommons and commons that they did that with. But
I can't remember when the reserve list began. Whenever Chronicles was printed, 95, whatever. Oh, really? Okay, that late.
That might be when they changed it, like the first or second time.
Okay. My larger point is that in the time we played, from like middle school to end of high school, we saw the reserve list appear and then also change, like things be put on the reserve list and then be taken off the reserve list. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think to myself that, okay, these reserve list dual lands, they're never going to be reprinted. And everybody,
I don't think I was even monitoring it that closely, really. So this says the reserve list was first created in 1996 and it was revised in 2002 and then again in 2010.
So it just never occurred to me to be like, hold on to those dual lands or buy more dual lands. Anyways.
Yeah.
My point is that it has actually changed.
It would have been nice to pick up some $8 Wheel of Fortunes.
I just want 4 of each dual land, like I could have easily had back in the day. I didn't have 4 of each back in the day because I wasn't always playing those colors, but I had 4 of a lot of them.
I know I had like enough that I could like whatever deck I wanted to build, I could like trade for some other dual lands, and
it's pretty much what we all did.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about stocking up on all of them. It seemed like sort of like a vanity thing to be worrying about that as opposed to like getting the other non-dual land cards that I needed to build decks were, that cost money, like a moat or a force field or something.
I'll be thinking about this next week at work too, and the kids I work with are going to be like, Steve's talking about these cards again, these dual lands. He's complaining about how they used to be $5 again. Okay. Alex added his Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune. Next, so right next to Demonic Tutor and Wheel of Fortune, I feel like I need the green auto include from that era.
Hold on. Let me. Regrowth.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything in here, I don't think, to pull something from my graveyard. I started to look, I was like, I wonder, has regrowth been like outclassed now? You know what I mean? I was wondering if there was like a pre-modern era like replacement for it, and I didn't really see anything directly.
I haven't seen anything. I just was looking at something the other day that can bring stuff back for your graveyard in green, but it's like discard X cards, bring X cards back. It was more of like a green regrowth almost. I mean, sorry, a green recall.
Oh, okay.
And I've forgotten what it is, so I can't help you with that right now.
But yeah, I feel like in a commander deck, when I can only have one of everything, I kind of want that regrowth so I get a second shot at one of my cards.
Actually, you have a revised or an unlimited?
I
a
believe
beta?
I have an unlimited, but it's really beaten up. It's like it's been chewed on.
Same. I have a beat to shit unlimited regrowth.
We like must. I don't know where we got those back then. Like,
I don't know.
shed another card. Shed another card.
You can do whatever you want.
All right, I'll
This
add
is
another
your
card.
segment.
I'll add another card. I'm going to add one more defensive card now. I'm still
Okay.
working on my list of defensive creatures. I don't have quite enough, but I'm going to add another defensive card. This is this card won't help me against your deck, I don't think, because of all the trample.
Nothing will help.
But I think it'll help me generally. He's a classic. You know him. I know him. Will-o'-the-Wisp.
Oh,
For only one black, I have a flying regenerating blocker.
so it was a big deal back in the day when we first started playing. I remember people getting psyched about Will-o'-the-Wisp. People trading for Will-o'-the-Wisp. People being like, "Oh my God, you have a wisp."
Yeah. He was this was as much money as a dual land or a Wheel of Fortune or a, maybe not quite a royal assassin.
You got a wisp out. Nobody's touching you unless they have a force of nature.
Or trample.
Unless they have a trampler.
Yeah. Cool art too. It's a nicely designed card. It looks like a nice card in black.
This is a card that looks great in black border, beta or alpha. Great.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Great.
But revised one for now.
Revised Will-o'-the-Wisp. Okay, Alex has added several cards to his commander deck, his group hug commander deck. I think that brings us to the end of episode 40 of the Old Man Magic podcast. If you've listened this long, thank you for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we're going to talk about Zvi's fires. The week after that, we're going to talk about Steve's fires. So if you enjoyed the Fires of Yavimaya discussion, there's more to come. I think I'm all magicked out, Alex. I got nothing left to say.
All right.
Got any words of wisdom to leave our viewers with? Specifically, words of wisdom. They can't just be words. They have to contain wisdom. You had a week to prepare words of wisdom. You forgot.
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
Okay, that's a good one. There you go. Important. Talk to you next week.
Later.